First, we're going to talk about old ex-president Burgermouth McSpinkterfuck, if you guys know who I'm talking about. Good old grab him by the pussy himself, Donald J. Trump, the loser president who has spent every waking moment of the last, 2 years trying to convince everyone who will listen that the election was stolen, even though he lost fair and square. And Mr. Ex-President there is not having a very good week. So I'm sure you guys know the story. It looks like he's finally going to be arrested and held accountable for something. Maybe if the district attorney in New York there will just, get off the pot and actually pull the trigger on this, looks like Donald Trump may actually be indicted. What's he going to be indicted for, right? Well, funny because, Mr. Trump is accused of lots and lots and lots of crimes. The least of which is attempting to overthrow the United States government, prevent the certification of Joe Biden's election, and basically steal the presidency. Right. Which, who knows if he's ever going to actually be held accountable for that. He also tried to get the governor of Georgia to steal the election for him there as well. As it turns out, the perfect phone call that he did, asking for more additional votes. That wasn't the only thing. That was to the Secretary of State of Georgia, I believe, right? Because they're the ones that control the elections. Basically, his name was George Rathenberger, I think. And Trump called him, trying to pressure him into basically finding fake votes for him so that he could win. But not only that, he actually also called the governor of Georgia and apparently tried to get him to hold a special session of the legislature so that they would basically vote to hand the election over to Donald Trump. Right, and this is what he wanted. He wanted the governor to convene a session of the legislature, or to call his friends in the legislature, because I don't really know how that would work, because the governor doesn't control the legislative branch, but whatever. And then he wanted them to declare that the electors from Georgia would go to Trump instead of Biden. That's what he wanted him to do, which is technically legal. Really, a state legislature can do that, because the state legislature is the one that, in our ridiculous backwards ass electoral college system, it's the legislature who ultimately controls who gets the electors, right, for any given candidate. And there are provisions in pretty much every state where if they think that that there's been shenanigans of one kind or another, then they can basically vote to give those electoral college votes to anybody they want. Like, it doesn't have to match the guy who gets the most votes, right? Although it would be a major scandal if that actually did happen. So that's what Donald Trump was trying to pressure the lawmakers in Georgia to do for him, right? So he's been accused of that. We're waiting for an indictment there as well, because that is against the law. You're not allowed to basically pressure an elected official in order to throw an election your way. That's a major no-no, and, they kind of have Trump dead to rights there with recordings and phone calls and all that shit. I don't know what the hell they're waiting for there. But, so while we're waiting for indictments on all of these other crimes, the thing that looks like he might get indicted for first is going to be the Stormy Daniels case. So, if you guys remember what happened with Stormy Daniels, that was the porn star which Donald Trump had sex with while he was, while his wife was recovering from the birth of his young son, Barron. So this was roughly 13 years ago, I think, something like that. How old is Barron? He's like 14, 15, so I think it was around 2011, I think. So maybe 12, I don't know, something like that. So right around then, right, shortly after the birth of his third son, he was at some kind of conference or some shit and saw Stormy Daniels there, and basically they got it on. And there is, it's pretty much a given that this happened. There's photos of them hanging out with each other. Right. She's testified to it under oath, and also, let's not forget that Michael Cohen was convicted of this and spent some time in prison because of what happened here. Now, why is this against the law, right? Because what happened exactly, right? What happened exactly is that, well, when it came time for him to run for office, they figured, rightly so, that if word got out that he is a philanderer who, the thing is, everybody knows Donald Trump was a philanderer to begin with, right? I mean, the guy's, what's he been married 3 times already, right? So it's like, okay, the guy can't keep it in his pants to save his life, right? But if it got out that he cheated on his current wife with a porn star while she was recovering after the birth of his son, that may not look really good. And so they figured, well, we should give her some hush money. And the thing is, there's nothing illegal about that at all, right? If he just would have gone to her, given her some money, had her sign an NDA, there's nothing illegal about that. That happens all the time, okay? It is 100% legal to pay somebody to not talk about something, and it's not like, having sex outside of marriage is illegal, right? So where's the illegal part come in, right? Where does it come in that what he did may actually land him, probably not in jail, but, in legal trouble. Who knows? Can he go to jail for this? I don't know, right? Well, it's the way that he did it, because Donald Trump is cheap. So what he did was that he had his lawyer, Michael Cohen, pay this money to Stormy Daniels, right? This is my understanding of this. So as far as I know, if I'm wrong, please correct me in the comments or whatever, right? But my understanding of this, right, is that Michael Cohen paid Stormy Daniels $130,000, right? Then was expecting to get that money to be reimbursed with that money from Donald Trump, right? And Donald Trump did not reimburse him, because Donald Trump is notorious for ripping people off. And it's like, I don't understand why people still do business with this man when he is so notorious for not paying people, right? For not paying his lawyers, for not paying contractors, things like that, right? He is notorious for that shit. So he decides not to pay Michael Cohen the $130,000 that Michael Cohen paid out of his own pocket, right? So the problem is that then becomes a gift, right? And since he was running for office at the time, it amounts to an illegal campaign contribution, right? So Michael Cohen was convicted of this. Michael Cohen basically pleaded guilty to get a reduced sentence, and he all but named Donald Trump in his deposition as the individual whom he was benefiting with this campaign contribution, right? Because that's what it is. Now, if he just would have just paid her, right? If he just would have paid her, or if they just would have paid him, right? That wouldn't have been an illegal campaign contribution. Everything would have been cool. But I don't know. I mean, I suspect the reason why he didn't do it is because he didn't want the money to be traced back to him, because then it gives him plausible deniability, like, well, I didn't pay her off, my lawyer did. That wasn't me. He did it out of the goodness of his heart or whatever, right? But that kind of sounds like a bullshit excuse to me. And I suspect he just didn't pay Michael Cohen back because he's a cheap bastard. That's that's really what I think, right? So that is illegal, right? Because you're not allowed to give. Not because here's the thing, right? Campaign contributions are not just money. It's not just money. It's anything of value. Well, paying off your ex mistress for the benefit of your boss, who happens to be running for president, is a gift of value. $130,000 worth of value, which is more than the limit that you're allowed to give to a campaign. I think the highest possible limit you're allowed to give to a campaign is something like $30,000 or something like that. It's pretty low. It's surprisingly low, right? And the way they get around that is with super PACs and stuff like that, where they're basically donating the money, but to a different organization who's not supposed to be coordinating with the campaign, but obviously fucking does. I mean, don't get me wrong, the campaign laws are all screwed up and corrupt as hell, and there's plenty of legal ways to just put that money straight into your pocket, right? Well, that's kind of what Donald Trump did. Donald Trump, by not paying this $130,000, it's essentially like him just taking $130,000 out of his campaign and sticking it right into his pocket, right? It's as a gift. So that's what Michael Cohen got busted for, pled guilty to, and served time for. Although I think he spent some of that time under house arrest. But yeah, I think he was actually in a prison, and then once, if I remember right, once COVID started, they moved him to like house arrest so that he would like be out of the prison. But Michael Cohen got 2 years for that shit, and he he did his time, and now he's like going, yeah, I did it for Trump and all this other shit, right? And if I was Michael Cohen, I would be pissed. I would understand, because here's the thing about Michael Cohen. Everybody says that he's like slimy and all this other shit, and he is. The guy is a piece of shit. Don't get me wrong. He's slime. He was perfectly cool working for this piece of shit asshole as long as the money kept flowing. And then Donald Trump tried to screw him by not paying him, and then he went to jail for Trump. And I'd be a little pissed off too. It's like, hey, you're not gonna fucking pin this shit on me, dude. Right? That's what Michael Cohen's saying. So this is why Michael Cohen is, Michael Cohen didn't have some epiphany where he decided to like clean his life up or any shit like that. It's like, no, he's trying to get revenge on his boss for hanging him out to dry here. That's Michael Cohen's fucking motive, right? So anyway, Trump seems to be shitting his pants now over the possibility that he might actually be held accountable for the first time in his entire life for doing something illegal. It seems like he's going on these ridiculous sort of truther rants, because he has that second-rate Twitter ripoff that he started, Truth Social and all that. So he's making all these posts there in all caps, like demanding, screaming and trying to get people to come and protest. And that was a big thing in the news for the last couple days. Donald Trump is trying to instigate another January 6th, right? For the most part, the Trump people, the MAGA chuds, don't seem to be going for it. They had a very, very lackluster and tiny sort of protest outside a Trump Tower, which it's not even really worth showing you the video of. I'm sure you guys, if you haven't seen it, you're not missing much. There was like 6 people hanging out outside a Trump Tower, and one of them blows on a horn, and it's the saddest, most pathetic thing ever. And I really think people kind of are not falling for it this time, right? I think people saw what happened in January 6th, how all those people got screwed, and now they're not going to come out and risk their freedom for Donald Trump. Because if you look at what happened with January 6th, right? Trump called all these people up, right? Gets them at this rally, starts, firing all up, has Giuliani there, saying all this ridiculous inflammatory shit. Because it wasn't just Donald Trump at that rally. Like, there was all kinds of people there. Giuliani was there, and Sidney Powell was there, and Kimberly Guilfoyle. All these people were there, firing up all the Trump people, saying, "We gotta fight, we gotta fight." And Giuliani said, what did he say? Let's have trial by combat, right? Stuff like that. And Trump himself gets up and, "You got to fight or we won't have a country anymore. We're going to march over there and we're going to show them what's for," and all this other stuff. We're going to show them all this other shit, right? So then the people go out, he unleashes this fucking mob. They go out and they smash up the Capitol, try to kill the vice president, all this other shit. We saw what happened, right? And then he just hangs them all out to dry. He was still president for, till the 21st? Till the 21st of January was the inauguration. So what is that, 2 weeks? Past the 6th? He had 2 weeks. All these people were getting busted left and right. He could have done something, right? He didn't say anything. He didn't do anything. He didn't pardon anybody. Of course, he pardoned Michael, Roger Stone and a bunch of other people. Pardoned a bunch of rich people, right? But what about, all the people that, even in those first 2 weeks, people were getting busted and going to jail, right? Was Donald Trump handing out pardons, trying to help these people? Nope. Was he doing anything to try to get these people, some kind of legal help? You remember that way back in the day when Trump was like, way back in the beginning of his campaign where he said that if there's somebody messing with you at a rally, punch him in the face and I'll pay the legal bills. Remember that? That was a very famous quote from Trump, Just punch him in the face, get him out of here, and I'll pay for your legal bills, right? Did he pay for any of their legal bills? No. Right, so these people went to bat for him, and they went to prison. And a lot of people went to prison for this. There's something like 500 convictions, right, so far. Most of them are for very small amounts of time, but most of those people are only really guilty of trespassing. A few people got, the book thrown at them. For example, the QAnon shaman, that guy got like 4 years. The guy, the leader of the Oath Keepers, Stuart Rhodes, that dude is looking at between 20 to 60 years, right, for sedition, right? So yeah, some people are going away for a long time. And is Donald Trump doing anything to help these people? Nothing. Absolutely nothing at all. Did he even say anything about these people? No, he just completely left them out to hang, right? Which is, good, because fuck these people, and they're all traitors, and they deserve to be in prison, right? But try to look at it from their perspective. Imagine that you're a Trump supporter, right? And you saw what happened on January 6th, right? Are you going to go out and risk and put your neck on the line for this guy? It's like, oh, maybe you might vote for him still. But after seeing what happened to all of the people that actually went out and fought for him, right? And now he didn't do jack shit for them, kind of shows like, yeah, this time maybe people stayed home. And that's why only like 6 people showed up at this ridiculous fucking protest, right? And that's actually kind of good news, I think, because it sort of shows that the base now is like cracking. It's like the base sort of knows he's full of shit, right? And since he's running for president now, and he's probably going to annihilate any Republican like challengers who try to like get in his way, but kind of shows that maybe the base isn't completely on board this time, that they're not as fanatical, like only the truly fanatical people are left, and like the average Trump supporter who may have come out to the polls for him 2 years ago, like, and 2 years from now, they're not going to be, I guess not even 2 years from now, like next year when the election happens, like they're not going to be super excited because they kind of know the guy's a fucking swindling con artist at this point, right? So yeah, that's kind of good news, I think, for the country, because these people are not like insanely like, ready to jump off a cliff for his ass anymore. Hello folks, if you like what I do and you want to support the channel, please consider buying something from my Etsy shop, supporting me on Patreon, liking and subscribing, and checking me out across my social media links listed below. Thank you all so much, and see you next time.